My neighbor dumped raw chicken juice in my yard after I skipped her barbecue, then reported me. I got fined $4.5K, but when I caught her red-handed with a UV camera, I sent the footage to her HOA, landlord, and the health department. I was standing in my own backyard in Tacoma, Washington, staring at a pile of slimy, pink, rotting chicken parts, scattered across the mulch like someone had tried to summon a demon made of salmonella. The smell hit first, sour, metallic, stomach-turning. Then the buzzing. Then the scratching sounds coming from under my deck that made my blood run cold. Rats, again. My phone was still in my hand, vibrating nonstop from the new email I'd just opened 20 minutes earlier. A $4,500 emergency sanitation order and a public nuisance citation. Health Services basically said my yard was a biohazard zone, and I needed to address the infestation immediately. I felt my jaw clench so hard it hurt. And then, like she'd practiced the timing, my neighbor, Lara, poked her head over the fence with that smug little half-smile she always used when she wanted me to know she'd won something. "Rough morning?" she asked, sipping from a giant iced coffee. I didn't answer, I just pointed at the chicken carnage. "Did you?" She lifted a hand. "Oh no, don't accuse me of things just because you're, what's the word, antisocial." Then she laughed, this nasty, condescending chuckle. "Maybe next time you'll be more friendly, join the neighborhood." That last line made my stomach drop. Because 3 weeks earlier, she'd invited me to her weird, booze-soaked cul-de-sac barbecue, one of those HOA cult vibe things where everyone looked like they shared one brain cell and the same seasonal dacre. I had politely declined because I'd just started a new job and was exhausted. She acted like I'd spit in her face. 2 days later, the first rat problem started. Animal control found chicken scraps in my yard then, too. But I couldn't prove anything. They warned me, I cleaned it. I spent $800. I apologized like an idiot for any misunderstanding because I didn't want drama. And now here we were again, only worse. Rotting meat everywhere, rats bold enough to run across my yard in daylight, and her stupid, satisfied smirk. I wanted to scream. Instead, I took a breath that tasted like decay and asked, "Why are you doing this?" She widened her eyes like I was unhinged. "Doing what? You really should take better care of your property." "People talk, And then she walked inside. That was the moment the anger finally drowned out the embarrassment. I wasn't going to be her quiet little punching bag anymore. That night, after 2 hours of rage scrolling through home security forums, I ordered a UV-enabled motion camera. The kind that can pick up fluid trails, reflective residues, the works. If she really was tossing raw chicken into my yard, the splatter would light up like a crime scene. 3 days later, I had the camera mounted behind the shed, angled perfectly at the corner of the fence where the chicken kept showing up. I didn't have to wait long. At 2:17 a.m., the motion alert pinged. I opened the feed and there she was. Lara, in slippers and a bathrobe, leaning over the fence with a metal bowl. She tilted it, and in the glow of the UV light, a cascade of sticky, gelatinous chicken juice poured into my yard, glowing bright blue like radioactive slime. She even shook the bowl afterward, like she wanted to make sure she got every last drop. I watched my neighbor commit a literal biohazard attack in the middle of the night. My hands were shaking so hard, I almost dropped my phone. I didn't sleep, not even for a minute. By sunrise, I had already copied the footage to a secure drive. And an hour later, I sent a single email containing that video to. Before all this, I barely even knew Lara. We weren't friends. We weren't enemies. We were just two people who lived on opposite sides of a fence in a quiet part of Tacoma where people cared more about recycling schedules than each other's personal lives. When I moved in 2 years ago, I actually tried to be friendly. I brought over banana bread. She opened the door only halfway, looked at the bread like it was a dead animal, and said, "I'm gluten-free." Then she shut the door, no smile. "No thanks, just shut it." I told myself she was just having a bad day. Turns out that was her good day. Over time, I noticed she had this obsession with controlling the entire cul-de-sac. She wasn't officially in charge of anything, but she acted like she ran some secret neighborhood regime. She monitored who mowed their lawn on schedule. She left handwritten notes on people's garbage, as if lids were not aesthetically aligned. She physically pulled a political sign out of someone's front yard once because it lowered community morale. People complained about her constantly, but always behind closed doors. No one wanted to confront her, because she had this talent for weaponizing rules, reports, and gossip. If she didn't like someone, suddenly the HOA was on them for garden gnomes or fence heights. And somehow, she always got away with it. I made a conscious choice to stay out of her orbit. I didn't go to the cul-de-sac potlucks. I didn't join the neighborhood Facebook group. I said hi politely and minded my business. Everything stayed perfectly fine until 6 months ago when I adopted my dog, Scout, a gentle rescue mutt who spent half his time sleeping in sun patches. The first week I had him, he barked twice. 2 barks. That was enough for Lara to leave a note on my door. "Your dog is disturbing the peace. Please manage him." I rolled my eyes and ignored it. Then came the passive-aggressive comments about my lack of participation in our community. She asked me 3 times in 1 month why I didn't come to the weekly Friday night wine circle. Then she made a weird comment about how people who keep to themselves usually cause problems. I brushed it off. I thought she was harmless, annoying but harmless. Then came the barbecue invite. It wasn't a normal invitation. She showed up at my door, unannounced, with a clipboard and a tight smile. She told me attendance was strongly encouraged because the HOA president's husband was grilling, and it would be good optics for me to join. I told her the truth. I was exhausted from onboarding at my new job. I thanked her, politely declined, and said maybe next time. Her face went flat, like I had broken some unspoken rule. "Well," she said, "people notice those things." I honestly thought she was just being melodramatic. 2 days later, the first bag of raw chicken scraps showed up in my yard. Health services knocked on my door with gloves and clipboards, asking if I'd been disposing of meat improperly. The embarrassment was unreal. I tried to explain I'd never thrown chicken outside in my life. They looked sympathetic but firm. I cleaned it up myself. Lara just happened to be outside, sipping wine, watching me. At that point, I still didn't want to believe she had done it. I didn't want to believe anyone could be that vindictive over a missed barbecue. But weeks later, when it happened again, and worse, and she made that little "maybe next time you'll be more friendly" comment, yeah, that was when everything clicked. She wasn't subtle. She wanted to punish me, and now she was escalating. The second infestation. The citation, the bill, the smirk. Someone once told me that the quiet people get messed with the most because everyone assumes they won't fight back. Standing there with a $4,500 problem I didn't create, I realized Lara assumed exactly that. She thought I would take the hit, shrink back, and keep my mouth shut. She had no idea who she was dealing with. The morning after I caught her on camera, I walked outside half expecting to see another pile of chicken parts. Instead, the yard was empty, too empty. It was like she'd taken a night off to make sure the rats had time to spread. The air still smelled faintly sour, and I could hear scratching under the deck. Even after the sanitation crew's first round, the infestation wasn't gone. I had traps lined along the fence and motion lights everywhere, and still, I'd seen 2 rats dart across the patio at dawn. But the real escalation wasn't the rats. It was the people. By noon, 2 neighbors stopped by just to check in. One of them, Mark, kept glancing over my shoulder at the yard like he was inspecting a crime scene. He asked if I'd been handling raw meat safely. Then he asked if Scout had been dragging food outside. I told him none of this made sense, because I don't even cook chicken that often. He smiled politely, but I could tell he didn't buy it. That's when I realized the rumors were already spreading. Not just normal gossip, Lara gossip. The kind she planted like landmines so she could watch the blast. By late afternoon, the HOA president emailed me expressing concern. She wrote that multiple neighbors had reported sanitation issues related to my yard. She suggested doing a voluntary home cleanliness inspection to ensure I was in compliance with neighborhood expectations. I felt my face heat up with embarrassment and rage. Lara had spent years training this neighborhood to see her as the authority, and now she was using that authority to isolate me and paint me as the problem. That night, I paced my living room with the UV footage pulled up on the TV. I kept replaying the moment she dumped the chicken juice. The casual way she did it, the little shake of the bowl, like she'd done it 100 times. I didn't just feel angry. I felt stupid for ever giving her the benefit of the doubt. Around 11 p.m., I heard something slam against my fence. Not soft, not accidental. A full-bodied thud that made Scout start barking and run to the back door. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. My fence was smeared with something dark and sticky. At first, I thought it was more meat juice, but when I got closer, I saw it was sludge. Some kind of spoiled marinade or liquid from a garbage bag. The smell slapped me in the face. And sitting right in the middle of the yard was a half-split bag of kitchen waste, tossed over like someone had lobbed it with intention. Raw chicken skin, vegetables, bones, all mixed together into a dripping pile. My hands shook with fury. This wasn't passive-aggressive anymore. This was aggression, period. I marched to the fence and shined the light over. Her kitchen window was dark, but her bedroom, the light was on, curtains slightly open. I could see her silhouette. She was standing there, perfectly still, watching my yard like it was a TV show. She wasn't hiding it. She wanted me to know. I pulled out my phone and checked the camera feed. The UV camera didn't catch the bag this time. It was thrown from a different angle. But another motion cam got the audio. A grunt, the sound of a bag hitting wood, and then her voice muttering, "Let's see you get out of this one." That was the moment my stomach dropped. This wasn't about a barbecue anymore. This wasn't about me declining an invite. She was building a narrative, one where I was the dirty, problematic neighbor. One where she was the heroic watchdog protecting the community. She was setting me up for something bigger. Because people like Lara don't just cause problems, they build cases. And I realized I was already several chapters deep into hers. 2 days after the garbage bag incident, I finally got the call back I'd been waiting for, from the health services case officer who'd handled my first inspection. I expected a quick follow-up. Maybe even sympathy once I showed him the UV footage. Instead, the conversation blindsided me so hard I had to sit down. He cleared his throat and said, "I need to notify you that another complaint has been filed." A serious one. My stomach dropped. By who? He hesitated, not long but long enough that I felt the answer coming before he said it. Your neighbor, Lara, of course, but then he kept talking. She submitted photos, he said. And a written statement claiming she's witnessed you dumping chicken waste over your own fence at night. She says you've been trying to blame her because you're, quote, socially paranoid and uncomfortable with community involvement. I felt the blood drain from my face. She sent photos, I asked. She did, time-stamped. I didn't understand. Then go look at my footage, she's the one dumping. He cut me off gently. She also submitted what appears to be surveillance footage of you doing it. I froze. My heart was pounding so fast I could barely hear him. She what? She provided video of someone in your yard, tossing chicken over the fence toward her property line. That's impossible, I snapped. There is no camera in my yard except the ones I installed, and I have the footage. He paused again, and this time his voice changed, like he was choosing his next words carefully. She says she installed a camera angled toward your backyard months ago due to ongoing concerns. She claims she has hours of recordings. I stood there, gripping the edge of the counter, trying not to throw my phone. This was beyond lying. This was fabrication. I told him I had my own footage proving she was dumping the chicken. He sounded skeptical, but he agreed to review it. While we talked, I opened the email Lara had CC'd me on, because of course she had. She wanted me to see what she'd done. I opened the attachments. And that's when the real betrayal hit me, harder than the rats, harder than the fines, harder than the garbage bags. She hadn't just faked footage. She had video of a person in my backyard, someone dressed in clothes eerily similar to mine, same height, same posture, throwing something over the fence. At first glance, it looked like me. My hands went cold. My brain raced. Then I watched it again, slower. The shirt was off by a shade. The stride was slightly wrong. The hair was too long. The face was never fully visible. It wasn't me. It was a decoy. Someone pretending to be me. My chest tightened as a thought pushed its way into my mind. Slow, heavy, undeniable. She had someone else come into my yard at night. Someone who looked just enough like me to pass if you didn't look too closely. Someone who wore clothes meant to resemble mine. Someone who had access to my yard. And then something else clicked so hard I nearly dropped my phone. 3 months ago, my side gate latch broke. I'd assumed it was weather damage, the wind. I replaced it myself, but it broke again weeks later. Then again, that gate, my only unsecured entry point, was right next to the fence we shared. My throat went dry. She hadn't been working alone. And whoever she'd sent into my yard, whoever she'd used to fake that footage, they'd been inside my property while I slept. When I ended the call with the officer, I felt physically sick. This wasn't neighborhood drama anymore. This was planned, coordinated, calculated. She didn't just want to make me look bad. She wanted to destroy my credibility completely. Because once I looked like a liar, no one would believe what came next. And I knew deep in my gut that she wasn't finished. Not even close. For the first time since this whole nightmare started, I felt something sharper than anger, something clean, cold, and steady. Not panic, not fear. Focus. The kind of focus that hits when you realize you're backed into a corner and the only way out is to stop playing defense. Lara had crossed every line. She had trespassed. She had faked evidence. She had involved another person. She had filed official complaints built on lies. She was trying to build a legal case against me, slowly, methodically, like she'd done it before. So I stopped thinking like a victim, and I started thinking like someone building a case of their own. The first thing I did was call my coworker, Riley. She's quiet, blunt, and brilliant at anything involving tech. When I explained everything, every detail, every video, she didn't ask dumb questions. She just said, "You're being set up, start collecting." That became my mantra: collect everything, record everything, assume nothing is harmless. I bought 2 more cameras, one facing the gate, the other covering the entire perimeter. Not just UV, full spectrum, night vision, tamper detection. I hid them in places even I had trouble finding again. Then I installed a small door contact alarm on the gate. Nothing loud, nothing obvious. It just pinged my phone when the gate opened. The first night it went off at 4:12 a.m., and the motion camera caught a figure in dark clothing pulling on the latch but not entering. Not Lara, someone taller, someone I didn't recognize. That told me 3 things. 1, she absolutely had help. 2, she was testing my yard regularly. 3, she wasn't done planting evidence, so I changed tactics. Instead of trying to stop her, I prepared the stage. I cleaned every inch of the yard again with documented timestamps. Photos, videos, everything. I even recorded myself sealing the trash and storing it in the locked bins on the opposite side of the house. Then I left the backyard exactly how I knew she wanted it. Empty, quiet, vulnerable. A perfect trap. Next, I contacted a lawyer, not to sue, not yet, but to ask one question: what makes evidence irrefutable? The answer was simple: chain of custody, clear chronology, demonstration of intentional acts. I took notes. Then I went to the HOA meeting that I usually avoided like a plague. I didn't speak. I sat in the back and watched Lara work the room, all tight smiles and fake concern. She talked to the HOA president for 10 minutes. She pointed in my direction twice. I kept my eyes down. Let her think I was scared. The truth was, I recorded the whole thing. When I got home, I reviewed the footage from the last 48 hours. There was nothing big yet. But there were small things: shadows moving where no one should be, the sound of footsteps near the gate, the rustling of a bag in the middle of the night. She was circling, testing, waiting for the right moment to dump another pile into my yard. I needed her to do it. Because this time, everything was in place. The cameras, the gate alarm, the clear yard I documented. The motion-triggered floodlights timed to catch her face. The UV lens. The ambient mic pointed toward her side of the fence. And something else, something I hadn't told anyone, not even Riley. I mounted a secondary UV camera behind hers. Not on my property. On the tree in the easement area between our yards, legal public access. A camera pointed directly at the angle where she always leaned over. 3 layers of footage, 3 angles. 3 chances to catch her and anyone helping her. I knew she would strike again. People like her don't stop. They escalate until someone breaks, and I was done breaking. So I sat in my living room that night with Scout curled against my leg, the motion alerts open on my phone, waiting. Waiting for the moment she made her final mistake. The night she finally took the bait didn't start with a motion alert. It started with a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something in my gut told me to pick up. A man's voice came through, low and hesitant. "Is this the guy who lives next to Lara?" My chest tightened instantly. "Who is this?" He hesitated for a long moment before saying, "My name's Drew. I'm," another pause, "her ex." I didn't even know she had one. Before I could respond, he rushed on. "Look, I know this is weird, but I need to tell you something. It's about what she's been doing to you." My heart was pounding. "I'm listening." He took a shaky breath. "She contacted me 2 months ago, said she needed a favor. Said her neighbor was harassing her, dumping meat in her yard, and she needed proof to show the HOA. She asked if I'd come by at night and imitate you." I went still. My fingers gripped the phone so tightly it hurt. He kept talking like the words were burning to get out. "She gave me old photos of you she pulled from your Facebook, clothes to wear that looked like yours, even told me how to walk like you. She wanted video of you throwing stuff into her yard." My stomach lurched. That fake footage, the silhouette, the too long hair, the clothes that were off by a shade. It had been him. "And I did it," he admitted, voice cracking. "Because I'm an idiot. Because I still liked her, and she said it was harmless, just to get you to be more cooperative with the community." Cooperative, her favorite word. "But then she asked for more," he said. "She wanted me to go into your yard. Plant food scraps, open your gate so animals could get in. She wanted things to look bad enough that the HOA would step in." "Did you do it?" I asked, my voice flat. "No," he said quickly. "I backed out when she started talking about rats. I told her she was going too far. She freaked out. Threatened to tell people I was stalking her if I didn't shut up." My jaw clenched. "Why are you calling me now?" I asked. He swallowed. "Because she asked someone else to help her last week. A new guy. Someone she met at her gym. She bragged to a friend that this one wasn't hesitant like I was. Said he understood the mission." A cold bolt of dread slid down my spine, the tall figure at my gate, the one the camera caught testing the latch. "Listen," Drew said, voice shaking now. "She's planning something big, bigger than just dumping the meat. She said she wants you removed." Her word, not mine. Removed. The word hit harder than anything else had. "She thinks if she builds enough complaints," he said, "the city will fine you out of the neighborhood. Or force a property inspection that could find things. You need to be careful, she's not stable." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a motion alert. I pulled it away from my ear and looked at the screen. Backyard gate motion detected. 4:03 a.m. My blood ran cold. I lifted the phone back to my ear. "I have to go." "Please," Drew said. "Whatever you do, don't confront her alone." I hung up and opened the live camera feed. And there it was, a figure climbing my fence, not Lara, the tall man, the one she'd recruited after Drew. He landed in my yard and crouched, pulling something from a plastic bag, something wet, something that glistened under the UV lens. And then another silhouette appeared behind him. Small, familiar, smug, Lara. She was filming him with her phone. She wasn't afraid of getting caught. She believed, truly believed, that she had already won. But she didn't know about the new cameras, the alarms, the angles, the time-stamped documentation. She didn't know I had spoken to her ex. She didn't know that this night, the one she thought would destroy me, was the night everything flipped. I hit record on every camera I had, because this wasn't just proof. This was her downfall. When the sun came up that morning, I wasn't tired. I wasn't wired. I wasn't anything. I felt hollow, like the anger had finally burned clean through me and left nothing but clarity. I spent hours reviewing the footage from every camera angle. The tall guy climbing the fence. The bag of slimy chicken parts he dropped into my yard. Lara standing behind him, holding her phone sideways, narrating the whole thing in this calm, chipper voice, like she was filming a recipe video. Then the part that chilled me most, Her final line, whispered into the camera as they left, "This one should do it. He'll break soon." Break, not stop, not learn a lesson. Break. It wasn't until midday that I finally understood the full truth, because Drew called again. His voice was calmer this time, but there was something heavier underneath it. Shame, maybe, fear. "I need to tell you why she's doing this," he said. "I know she hates me," I replied. "I get that part." "No," he said quietly, "you don't." So I sat down and let him talk. He told me what Lara used to do to him, and 2 exes before him, and the couple who lived in my house before I bought it. "She has this thing," he said, "this belief. She thinks neighborhoods only work if she's the one running them." I felt my jaw clench. "She's controlling." "I know, it's more than controlling," he said. "She picks one person to push out if they don't fall in line. She calls them obstructions." That's the word she uses, obstructions. My stomach tightened. "She tried to push out the last guy who lived in your house," he continued. "Said he was ruining the neighborhood vibe because he didn't attend her events or listen to her guidance. She organized complaints against him. Little things. Noise. Trash, grass height, harassment claims, just enough to make his life miserable." I remembered the weird gaps in the property records, the short listing period, the heavily discounted price. Back then I thought it was just luck. It wasn't luck. It was Lara. She did the same thing to a woman 2 houses down, he said. Claimed she was unstable, spread rumors, filed anonymous reports about her unsafe yard. The woman had a meltdown and moved within 6 months. My chest tightened. "This is what she does," he said. "She builds a narrative, she plants evidence. She recruits people who think they're helping her protect the neighborhood. She manipulates until the target either snaps or leaves." I swallowed hard. "And me." "Why me?" He didn't hesitate. "Because you didn't bend," he said. "You didn't let her control you. You didn't join her events. You didn't ask for her approval. You didn't play her game. That makes you the enemy." It clicked so violently, I had to grip the edge of the table to steady myself. She hadn't been angry that I skipped her barbecue. She had taken my no as a threat to her power. And she wanted to make an example out of me. Drew kept talking, and with every sentence the picture got clearer and darker. "She said something once," he admitted, "after you moved in. She said you had the personality of someone who needed regulation. Regulation, dehumanizing, clinical, cold. And when she couldn't nudge you into line," he said, "she decided she'd force it. That's when she came to me. And when I backed out, she found someone else." I felt something inside me shift, not fear, not shock, recognition. She wasn't reacting, she wasn't spiraling, she wasn't emotional. She had a system, a method. A pattern of cruelty so deliberate it felt engineered. And I realized the scariest part. She wasn't trying to ruin my yard, or my reputation, or my wallet. She was trying to erase me. Push me out of the neighborhood like she'd done to others before me. Break me until I left voluntarily. And she believed, deep in her bones, that she was justified, that she was cleansing the neighborhood, that she was in the right. There was no sympathy to be found in her, no insecurity, no misunderstanding, just calculated, obsessive control that she wrapped in a thin layer of community spirit. Now I knew exactly who she was, and what she'd been doing for years, and that meant I finally knew how to take her down. The moment I understood her pattern, her long-term plan, her manufactured crises, her history of pushing people out, I felt something inside me settle. Not rage, not satisfaction, just certainty. I finally knew what I needed to do, and for once the fear was gone. People like Lara win because they operate in shadows, because no one sees the full picture. Because their victims always fight isolated pieces instead of exposing the whole machine. So that became my goal: show everyone everything, all at once, with proof no one could twist. I started by organizing the footage, 3 angles, crystal clear, time-stamped from the same night. The tall man climbing the fence. The chicken scraps dropping into my yard. Her recording it, whispering that I'd break soon. Then the earlier nights, her dumping meat juice, tossing bags, testing the gate. I compiled it all into a single file, a clean 10-minute timeline of her crimes. Next, I went through the HOA rules, the city sanitation codes, and the trespassing laws. I documented every violation she'd committed. I didn't embellish. I didn't dramatize. I stuck to facts, clear, bland, boring facts that cut sharper than anything emotional ever could. Then I wrote the email. Not angry, not emotional, just blunt and measured. I addressed it to the HOA board, the city health services officer, the non-emergency police contact for property crimes, and yes, Lara herself. I included a brief summary of the situation, attached the video file, and ended it with a single line. Please review the attached evidence. I will be pursuing full charges. Then I hit send all. I didn't have to wait long. 30 minutes later, the HOA president called me personally. She sounded like she was trying not to hyperventilate. She apologized so many times I lost count. She said the board was deeply disturbed. She said they had never seen anything like this. She said Lara had been temporarily suspended from all community activities. That last part almost made me laugh. An hour after that, the health services officer called. He told me the case against me was being closed immediately. He said they were opening a new one on her. Then came the police. They watched the footage, all 3 angles, twice. The officer looked at me and said, "Yeah, this is felony trespassing, falsifying evidence, harassment, and creating a public health hazard. We'll take it from here." The next morning, 2 patrol cars parked in front of her house. I didn't go outside. I watched from my window as they knocked on her door. She answered in that half-zip workout jacket she always wore, smiling like she was about to talk her way out of a parking ticket. The smile didn't last long. They spoke to her for maybe 3 minutes before they stepped inside. When they came out, she wasn't handcuffed, but her face was drained, white as printer paper. She looked around the cul-de-sac like it had betrayed her. In a way, it had. Because neighbors started stepping out. People who never talked to me before. People she had manipulated for years. They didn't say anything, just watched. She didn't meet my eyes, not once. She packed up and moved within 2 weeks. Not a slow move. Not a dignified one. A panicked evacuation, boxes thrown into a rental truck, blinds ripped down, yard abandoned. The tall man disappeared too. The rats, gone within a week of her leaving. The smell faded, the yard healed. Scout started sleeping without pacing. And me, I felt something I didn't think I'd feel again. Peace, real, steady peace. The HOA formally apologized in writing. They repealed the citation. They reimbursed the cleanup bill. They even asked if I wanted to join a committee. I didn't. I just wanted my life back. But before I deleted the footage for good, I watched the final clip again, her whispering he'll break soon. She was right. I did break. Just not the way she planned. I broke her instead.